Welcome back to the Cops and Writers Podcast bonus series where I'm reading chapters from my upcoming book, Police Stories, The Rookie Years, True Crime, Chaos, and Life as a Big City Cop. I'm Patrick O'Donnell, retired Milwaukee police sergeant, and your host for tonight's show. Last week, I read you chapter 28. Wow, that's realistic. The story about the dead body in our lobby and the crime scene, the crime prevention display. The response has been incredible. Thank you for listening, sharing, and pre ordering the book. Today's chapter is different. This is one of the most intense stories of the entire book. It's called All City Assist. Let me set the stage for you. If you ever heard that phrase before, All City Assist, that means every cop in the city drops what they're doing and responds to help their brother or sister cop who is in peril. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, the cop making the call knows the cavalry is coming. This is the story of the Blues Oasis shooting on Holton Avenue. Rachel and I were processing an arrest at the district when the call came over the radio. 245B, they're shooting at us. Send us more squads. It was Grace, Rachel's old partner and friend, getting shot at in a gangway next to the tavern. 3 people died that night. Cops took fire. Grace's glasses were shattered by a ricochet. And when Rachel and I finally made it inside the bar, we found a sea of bullet casings on the ground and 2 dead bodies. Content warning. This chapter contains graphic descriptions of violence, death, and an active shooting scene. Listener discretion is advised. Here we go. Chapter 31, All City Assist. Most good cops avoid making an arrest at the beginning of late shift because that is one of the busiest times of the shift. Good cops tried to stay available for priority 1 assignments, like shootings or anything else in progress. Rachel and I were at a hitch that gave us no choice. The boyfriend and his girlfriend were arguing and both were drunk. The situation was escalating quickly, fueled by malt liquor. We knew the only way to resolve the situation was to arrest someone. Thankfully, the boyfriend had a warrant, so he had to go. Problem solved. When we were at the district processing the arrest, a shots fired call came over the radio at the Blues Oasis Tavern on Holton. Squad 2485B, our tavern car, and 2 uniformed squads responded. Rachel and I looked at each other with concern and hurried with our paperwork. We were both walking towards our lieutenant's office when all hell broke loose over the radio. Everyone froze in their tracks, and the front lobby grew stone quiet as we all listened to our radios. An excited voice came over the radio. 245B, they're shooting at us. Send us more squads. It was Grace, Rachel's old squad partner and friend. We didn't know it, but Grace, her partner, and 2 uniformed cops were carefully walking single file up a gangway next to the tavern as they heard shots being fired inside the tavern and outside in the alley. The man exposed half of his body, raising his left hand in the air, pretending to surrender to the cops, who had their Glocks out at the low ready. What the cops didn't know was that he had a .357 Magnum in his right hand that was behind a fence and out of the cops' sight. Without warning, he drew down on the cops and started firing at them. The first cop in the stack dove to the ground as the first bullet struck a brick building where his head had been before he dove. Several officers returned fire, and another bullet hit the bricks next to Grace's head, ricocheting and striking her glasses, shattering them. Another cop, who was a Marine, got up on the air after he shot out the bright floodlight attached to the tavern. Squad 53, could you send more cars? They're shooting at us. He sounded like he was ordering a pizza. He was so calm. The dispatcher, who was a police officer, immediately opened the channel to citywide. Any squad assists the officers. They are taking gunfire at the Blues Oasis Tavern, 2400 North Holton Avenue. This was now an all-city assist. I've heard only a few of these in 25 years. This means everybody drops what they're doing and helps the officers. Rachel and I threw our paperwork at the lieutenant, who was waving us to get out of our office. Go! Anyone who was in with paperwork or an arrest was running out of the building, including us. We hauled ass and made it to the location in less than 5 minutes. Rachel parked the squad directly in front of the bar. I jumped out and almost fell on my face, tripping over a body that was half in the gutter and the other half on the sidewalk. I froze, looking at the lifeless body that was face down in a pool of blood that was pouring into the sewer. There was no time to check him for vitals. Cops that were inside the tavern were calling for help, and the cops who were getting shot at in the gangway were broadcasting a foot chase of the suspect who tried to blow their heads off. Rachel and I, with guns drawn, made entry into the tavern's front door. It was dimly lit, but the body of a man with a large gunshot wound to his temple was visible. He was on his side, still holding onto his bottle of Budweiser. There were two veteran cops with their guns drawn, back to back, scanning for threats, who were saying something, but I couldn't hear them. This was a symptom of extreme stress called auditory exclusion. That is part of the fight or flight reaction your brain goes through in a time of extreme stress. Tunnel vision and time distortion are also part of this reaction. All of it was happening to me, and I had no clue. The music was so loud, so that wasn't helping. The cops pointed to the bar, so Rachel and I carefully made our way behind it. We discovered a man lying on his back with multiple gunshot wounds to his lifeless body. His eyes, which weren't moving, were staring up at the dirty ceiling tiles. I thought to myself, well, that's 3 dead bodies. How many more are we going to stumble across? Rachel and I wasted no time as we cleared the rest of the bar for more victims and bad guys who might be lying in wait. My heart was racing like I was at the top of a roller coaster about to go down at 100 miles per hour. I had done this before on the street and in training. This was different. We knew these guys weren't shy about shooting people. Rachel and I were literally shoulder to shoulder using our flashlights in the dark bar. We were yelling at each other like an old married couple. You're going too fast. You're going too slow. We checked the last door and it revealed stairs going down. We both looked at each other and let out a shit in unison. We carefully went down the stairs, knowing this was where we were most vulnerable. No cover or concealment here. We scanned the area, and it was another bar and dance floor. We continued our methodical clearing of the area. I knew the radio was going crazy, but I couldn't hear the words clearly, and I was focused on one thing: not getting shot. The basement was clear, and we made our way up the stairs, announcing ourselves as friendlies. Police, don't shoot. When we arrived back upstairs, there was a small army of cops and some paramedics working on the victims. None of them were transported to the hospital, including the guy in the gutter. They were all dead, and nothing was going to change that. I noticed my feet were slipping. I lit up the floor with my flashlight and saw a sea of bullet casings. I had never seen that many casings at a scene before or after 25 years of policing. I was dripping with sweat, and I was exhausted. I didn't realize that I was under that much stress. I could only guess how the cops who were getting shot at or firing at the bad guys were feeling. The guy who shot at the cops was caught trying to jump a fence. One of our bigger cops, a Marine who we affectionately called the Swede from the movie Heartbreak Ridge, tore him off the fence and crushed his collarbone into tiny pieces as he pile-drived him into the ground. The .357 he used to shoot at the cops fell out of his waistband onto the cement. The cops recovered the gun without further incident. The backstory to all of this was that a bunch of underage kids went in around bar time and demanded to get served. The bartender refused service to them, and they went back to their cars and retrieved their guns and shot up the place, including a few patrons and the bartender. All the victims were at the wrong place at the wrong time. The investigation took a while, but everyone involved was eventually arrested and convicted. That morning, we held a choir practice at Rookie's. Almost everyone who was there, and some cops who were regular off that day, showed up, and we debriefed on what happened. There was lots of beer being drunk, and some used popcorn and glasses to set up the tabletop exercise, replaying the events over and over. I walked out to the tavern that afternoon and felt the warmth of the sun hit my face. When I got home, my wife and kids were at work and school, oblivious to what I have gone through. I just went to bed and attempted to sleep, but the events of the night replayed in my head on a loop, preventing my slumber. There was a short blurb on the evening news, but nothing of note. 3 people killed, cops getting shot at, and the public not knowing what happened at the Blues Oasis that night. I did, and it kept with me for the rest of my career. That's chapter 31 from Police Stories, The Rookie Years. That night, man, I went home, tried to sleep, and couldn't. The whole thing just kept replaying in my head on a loop. My wife and kids had no idea what happened. There was a short blurb on the evening news, 3 people killed, cops taking fire, but that was it. The public never really knew what went down at the Blues Oasis that night. That's one of the reasons I wrote this book, to show what actually happens on the streets. Not the TV version, not the sanitized version, the real version. If you want to read the rest of the book, all 34 chapters, it's available for pre-order right now on Amazon. Just search Police Stories, The Rookie Years, Patrick O'Donnell, or check the link in the show notes. The book launches mid-March, but you can lock in your copy now. Thanks for listening. Next week, I'll be back with another chapter from Police Stories, The Rookie Years. Until next time, hey, let's be careful out there.